That was the first time I heard that song as well. You'd think so, the way I was playing it. But it helps to have Luke shout the chords back to me. B minor. All right, the good thing is we're playing it again after the sermon, so we'll get it right second time. Good morning. It's lovely to see all your faces. So, tell me you're from Greystones without telling me you're from Greystones. Dry robes. That's actually what I have here. Yeah. Dry robes, sea swimming. You stay on the toilet way longer than you need to, just to have a few minutes peace and quiet. Speaking for myself, yeah. Or, I was hoping Eric was here, because I had tell me you're German without telling me you're German. I'll say it anyway. You might watch it online later. I said, you plan your holidays down to the minute and relax according to the schedule. But you get the picture, right? You can tell people without telling them. The way we do things and the way we live shows who we are. We don't need to tell someone because it's already obvious. Here's one more. Tell me you're a bad king of Israel without telling me you're a bad king of Israel. Well, you worship idols, probably. You lack faith in God, and so make alliances with other kingdoms. You even sacrifice your own son. Well, our passage this morning references one of those kings of Israel, or one of those kings of the Old Testament, the bad kind. His name is King Ahaz. He was a king of Judah, actually. And he has no faith that Yahweh is going to deliver him. He's politically calculated his future by making an alliance with the Assyrian Empire. And the passage we're about to read is an encounter between him and the prophet Isaiah. Sounds like a good Christmas story, doesn't it? You're like, where's the Christmas bit? You have to listen carefully for the Christmas bit in this passage. I feel Luke really did me in with this one, but no, it's good. Huh? The Advent bit, yeah. Listen for the Advent bit. All right, so our passage this morning is from the book of Isaiah. And Isaiah is having this exchange with King Ahaz. Again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz, saying, "Ask a sign of the Lord your God. Let it be deep as Sheol or high as heaven." But Ahaz said, "I will not ask, and I will not put the Lord to the test." Then Isaiah said, "Hear then, O house of David. Is it too little for you to weary mortals, that you weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Look, the young woman is with child, and shall bear a son, and shall name him Emmanuel." All right, it's familiar. Shall name him Emmanuel. "He shall eat curds and honey by the time he knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land before whose two kings you are in dread will be deserted." Okay. So this passage, it's a real-time exchange between the prophet Isaiah and King Ahaz. And Ahaz is scared out of his mind because the surrounding armies look like they might conquer Judah, where he is king, and then replace him. And through Isaiah, God is offering Ahaz a sign. He says, "Hey, Ahaz, ask for a sign. It's from the depths of Sheol or to the heights of heaven." But interestingly, Ahaz turns them down. He says, "I will not put the Lord to the test," which is the exact opposite of what I would have done in that situation. I think I've shared this before a few times in church, but I used to love putting God to the test. A lot of my greatest childhood memories are putting God to the test. I remember standing on the edge of the toilet seat in our house like this, up high, when I was about 8 years old, and saying, "Lord, if you are real, you will not let me touch the ground." And then I would leap off of the toilet, yeah, just like that. And I would leap off of the toilet seat, and God would hold me in midair. Even as early as last week, this didn't work. But Ahaz doesn't ask for a sign. He says, "No thanks. And many suggest that this is actually false piety. You know, he says, I don't want to put God to the test, but really, he had already made up his mind. He was making an alliance with the Assyrians because he didn't trust that Yahweh would deliver them. But God gives him a sign anyway. He says, look, the young woman is with child and shall bear a son and shall name him Emmanuel. And so often in the Bible, a prophecy can have a dual meaning. There's the meaning that was in the particular moment where it's said, and then an ultimate meaning that can be fulfilled later. And there was likely a child that Isaiah was referring to that Ahaz would have understood. Maybe he was pointing to a child, or maybe there was a child that Ahaz and Isaiah were both referring to. And by the time that child knew between good and evil, or had finished eating curds and honey, that he would be delivered. It was a way of saying, by the time that kid is X age, I will deliver you. That's the sign. It was a prophecy in a particular moment of time. But these prophecies have an even bigger, more climactic, ultimate fulfillment. And Matthew, for sure, sees this, and he quotes it in the very beginning of his gospel when he uses this prophecy from Isaiah. Because he sees the coming of Jesus, Emmanuel, the obvious, ultimate, climactic fulfillment of that sign that Isaiah spoke, or that God gave to Ahaz. And I've been thinking about signs this week, obviously, about showing and about telling. You know, this whole tell me you're from Greystones without telling me you're from Greystones. Because what is revealed in how we live speaks volumes. And I was thinking of another one. Tell me you're the Son of God without telling me you're the Son of God. Well, you might expect a royal celebration at his birth, or a palace, or infinite riches, the finest clothes that money can buy. But when the Son of God is revealed to the world, God chooses to be born in a stable, to a poor family, laid in a manger, surrounded by the company of sheep keepers and star seekers. Behold, a virgin will conceive and will be called Emmanuel, God with us. If we want to know what God is like, we need look no further than the Christmas story. But the problem is, there's already a king of the Jews when Jesus is born. In fact, there is already a king resident in Bethlehem when Jesus is born, King Herod. King Herod had many palaces. He had one in Jerusalem, he had one in Caesarea. He also had one just outside Bethlehem. It was called Herodian. It was a man-made mountain. He had taken parts of mountains from around the Judean hillside and with slaves brought the soil and created Herodian and built a fortress on top of it with lavish baths, a theater, and a tomb where he would eventually be buried. Right outside Bethlehem. You can see it if you're standing in Bethlehem. And so Jesus' birth stands in such contrast to this other king who is resident in Bethlehem. In fact, Jesus' whole life stands in such contrast to Herod. Whenever I think about Herodian, I think of this, you know, that when Jesus says to his disciples, if you have faith as big as a mustard seed, you can move mountains. Because people were already moving mountains in those days. Herod was moving mountains. But Jesus says, with faith as small as a mustard seed, you can move mountains. With faith as small as a mustard seed, God can do great things, but in situations that matter. And Jesus says this right after healing a little boy, which is something Herod could never do. Okay, we're going to park the tell me without telling me jokes now for a minute, which you'll be glad to hear because maybe you weren't enjoying them. So we'll put those aside because the telling part is actually really important too. Telling and showing go hand in hand. Throughout the Old Testament, God is telling and showing the people of God that he loves them and will redeem them. We have telling, like in Exodus, where God says, I have seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying. I have come down to rescue them. And we have the showing, the 10 plagues, the parting of the Red Sea, the miraculous Exodus. From slavery, from exile, from enemies, from sin, God tells the people of Israel, and then he shows them. And in Christmas, we have the ultimate show and tell. The God-child born in a manger, and the angels telling, glory to God in the highest, and on earth, peace among those with whom he is pleased. Show and tell and show. The prophets tell about healing in his wings. Jesus shows us as he touches the eyes of the blind and the woman who'd been bleeding for many years. The prophets tell us, Jesus shows us. The psalmist tells us that as far as the east is from the west, our transgressions will be removed from us. And on the cross, God shows us. God told King Ahaz to ask for a sign from the highest heaven to the depths of Sheol, and Jesus himself goes from the heights of heaven to the depths of hell and destroys death itself. Thank you, Luke. I was going to say, if Luke was up here, he'd be saying, can I get an amen? But we're different. But the telling and the showing go together. This week's Advent theme, we lit the candle, is love. And it fits wonderfully with this idea of telling and showing, because we do both. On a personal level, since the day Alana was born, all of you in this church and our wider community have told us that you love her. But you haven't just told us, you've showed us. And last summer, there was this huge fundraiser that Luke and many others put on to help us build a room in our house, especially for Alana, and a wet room that she can manage. And on Friday night, she moved into her new space. And yeah, let's go. But we couldn't do that on our own. But there was telling of love and showing of love. We, the church, are to be a people who tell and show. We sang carols on the street this week, and we send cards that say peace on earth. So we tell it, but then we got to show it. We work for justice. We raise our voice against violence. We build peace with our neighbor. We practice forgiveness. As we go about our lives this Christmas week, may we be a people who tell and show the love of God. And may people in Greystones who see us say, or know that we're forget it, that last line. I was trying to think of something clever, but we'll leave it at that. Show me you're a Christian without showing me a Christian. All right, thanks, Luke. We're going to close with a final song here, and thank you.